My husband's lawyer called again today, third time this week. I let it go to voicemail like I always do, but I already know what he wants. Papers to sign, tests to take, the end of my marriage wrapped up in legal terms and cold procedures. I'm sitting in what used to be our bedroom in Coral Gables, hand on my belly where life is growing. Life that should have brought us together, but instead tore us apart. The irony isn't lost on me. 6 months of trying, tracking ovulation, taking vitamins, and nothing. Then one night in Miami, and suddenly I'm pregnant. The timing couldn't be worse. Or better, depending on how you look at it. My sister Maria calls it karma. "You can't live 2 lives forever, Carmen," she said when I told her Dylan had left. "Eventually one crashes into the other." She would know. Maria's been living multiple lives since we were teenagers, juggling boyfriends like a circus act. The difference is she never pretended to be anything else. Never found God. Never convinced some nice white boy from the suburbs that she was different from the rest of our family. But I did. For 4 years, I played the part perfectly. The reformed girl who'd found salvation. The devoted wife who'd left her past behind. The good Catholic who wouldn't even consider birth control because we were trying for a family. If only Dylan knew the real reason I made him wait a year before we had sex. It wasn't about being religious or pure or any of that nonsense I fed him. It was about making sure he was invested, committed, that he wouldn't run when things got complicated. Men like Dylan, stable, predictable, faithful, they need to feel like they've earned something special. So I made him wait, made him work for it, made him believe he was getting something no one else had touched. The truth? By the time I met Dylan at 21, I'd already lived enough life for 3 women. Those painful events I couldn't talk about? Let's just say when your father's in prison, and your mother's too high to notice what's happening in her own house, you learn to survive any way you can. The men who came through our door, the things I did for money, for drugs, for a place to sleep when home got too dangerous. Dylan didn't need to know any of that. The first time was when I was 15. Maria's friend Carlos, who was 23 and should have known better. But he had an apartment and cash, and promised to take care of me if I was nice to him. I was nice to a lot of men back then. Had to be. Mom's dealer wouldn't extend credit forever, and somebody had to keep the lights on. By 17, I had a reputation. The Rodriguez sisters, Maria and Carmen, open for business. The revolving door Dylan thought was just for Maria's room, it was mine too. Different nights, different men, same desperation. We took turns keeping watch, making sure Mom didn't OD while we were otherwise occupied. That's what Dylan never understood about the Finding God story. It wasn't salvation I was after. It was escape. The Catholic church near our apartment in Houston ran a youth program, and the woman who ran it, Sister Catherine, took one look at me and saw past the tight clothes and heavy makeup to the terrified girl underneath. "You're worth more than this," she told me after catching me with the groundskeeper's son behind the rectory. Instead of throwing me out, she got me into counseling, helped me apply for scholarships, taught me how to act like the kind of girl who didn't have my kind of past. Dylan met that carefully constructed version of me, the one who wore modest dresses and spoke softly and crossed herself before meals, the one who volunteered at church functions and helped with the youth group, the reformed sinner who'd found grace. What a joke. He thought he was saving me. The classic white knight riding in to rescue the poor Mexican girl from her troubled past. I let him believe it because his savior complex came with a steady paycheck, a house in a good neighborhood, and a future that didn't involve visiting anyone through bulletproof glass. For 4 years, it worked. I cooked his bland American food, went to his bland suburban church, smiled at his bland friends who tried so hard to prove they weren't racist. "Your English is so good," they'd say, like I hadn't been born in Houston. I played the grateful immigrant wife, letting them feel charitable, even though my family had been in Texas longer than most of theirs had been in America. The only real thing in our marriage was how hard we tried for a baby. That part wasn't an act. I wanted a child desperately, Someone who would love me unconditionally, who I could protect the way no one protected me. Month after month of negative tests. Dylan started talking about fertility clinics, specialists, maybe adoption. Then Maria announced her engagement to Luis, and everything changed. "You have to come to my bachelorette party," she said. "No excuses." I knew what that meant. Maria's parties were legendary, the kind that ended with someone in jail or pregnant or both. But she's my sister, the only person who knows where I really come from, who I really am. I couldn't say no. "Just dinner and a movie," I told Dylan. "You know I don't do the club scene anymore." He believed me because he wanted to. Because after 4 years, he still saw me as his reformed Catholic wife who'd never lie to him. Sometimes I almost felt bad about how easy he was to fool. Almost. The party started on a yacht in Miami Beach. Not some little boat. A real yacht with 3 levels and a full bar, and men who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Music pounding, drinks flowing, girls from the old neighborhood screaming and laughing like we were 18 again. "There's my little saint," Maria shouted when she saw me, already 3 drinks in. "Time to remember who you really are, mamita." She was right. The moment I stepped onto that boat, I felt it. The old Carmen clawing her way out from under 4 years of suburban respectability. The Carmen who could drink any man under the table, who could dance until sunrise, who took what she wanted without apology or guilt. Just 1 drink, I told myself. Then 1 became 5, and 5 became who knows how many, and suddenly I was 20 again, wild and free and hungry for everything Dylan's predictable world couldn't give me. The men on the yacht weren't hired entertainment. They were friends of Luis's, players with money and connections, and that dangerous edge that had always been my weakness. When one of them, Rico, with arms like tree trunks and eyes that promised trouble, asked me to dance, I didn't hesitate. "You're the married sister," he said, pulling me close. "Maria told me about you. Said you used to be fun." Used to be. The challenge came out before I could stop it. What happened next? I wish I could blame the alcohol, the peer pressure, the music, the memories of who I used to be. But the truth is, when Rico led me to one of the yacht's bedrooms, I went willingly, eagerly, like a woman who'd been starving finally finding food. The bedroom was all mirrors and white leather, music still pounding through the walls. Rico poured champagne directly into my mouth, laughing when I choked. His hands were everywhere, and I didn't stop him, didn't want to stop him. "Your husband know where you are?" he asked between kisses. "My husband thinks I'm at Applebee's." I laughed, high on freedom and bad decisions. "Watching movies until dawn." "Innocent little wife," Rico mocked, pulling my dress over my head. "Let me show you what you've been missing." What I'd been missing was danger, excitement, the thrill of not knowing what comes next. Dylan was scheduled sex every Tuesday and Saturday, missionary position, lights off. Rico was cocaine off his chest and positions I'd forgotten existed. It wasn't just Rico. As the night went on, as we moved from yacht to club to hotel suite to warehouse rave, there were others. Faces and hands and bodies blending together in a haze of tequila and Molly and freedom. Maria cheering me on, other girls taking pictures and videos, all of us pretending tomorrow would never come. "Remember when we used to do this every weekend?" Maria screamed over the music at the warehouse, both of us high out of our minds. "Before you became Mrs. Suburban Housewife?" I remembered. Remembered being 17 and reckless. Remembered hotel rooms with men whose names I never learned. Remembered waking up in strange places with strange bruises and counting the cash to make sure they'd paid what they promised. "I'm still that girl," I screamed back, proving it by disappearing into a dark corner with someone's cousin whose name might have been Miguel or Manuel or something else that started with M. The sun was coming up when we finally called it quits. 5 of us piled into an Uber, makeup smeared, dresses torn, still giggling like the bad decisions were something to be proud of. Maria passed around Plan B pills like candy. "Can't be too careful," she winked. I should have taken one, should have taken 3. But some drunk, high part of my brain thought about those 6 months of trying with Dylan, all those negative tests, and decided to gamble. The drive home sobered me up enough to panic. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Dylan, each voicemail more worried than the last. I deleted them all, sprayed myself with perfume to mask the smell of smoke and strangers, and practiced my story in the driveway mirror. Maria drank too much. I had to take care of her. The movie ran late. Simple, believable, the kind of lie I'd told 1,000 times before. But Dylan knew. The moment I walked through our front door, I could see it in his eyes. Maybe it was the hickey on my neck I hadn't noticed. Maybe it was the glitter in my hair from the club. Maybe it was just that after 4 years, he'd finally learned to see through my masks. "Where were you?" His voice was calm, too calm. "I told you." "Applebee's and then—" "Don't." He held up his phone. "Maria posted Instagram stories all night. I saw the yacht, the club. I saw you in the background." My mind raced, searching for an explanation, an excuse, anything. But the drugs and alcohol made thinking feel like swimming through mud. "It wasn't supposed to be like that," I started. "The other girls surprised her." "Stop lying to me, Carmen. For once in your life, just stop lying." That's when I should have come clean. Should have admitted everything and begged for forgiveness. Instead, I doubled down the way I always did when cornered. "So I went to a party." "So what? I'm allowed to have fun. You think I want to spend every weekend watching your boring TV shows and eating your bland food?" The words came out wrong, meaner than I meant them. Or maybe they came out exactly right. Maybe that was how I really felt after 4 years of pretending to be satisfied with missionary position and meal prep Sundays. "My boring TV shows?" He laughed, but it was bitter. "My bland food?" Jesus, Carmen, just say what you really mean. Say you're bored, say you miss your old life, say you regret marrying me. "I don't." "Because I saw more than just you at a party in those videos. I saw you disappearing into bedrooms. I saw you all over men who weren't me. I saw who you really are when you think I'm not watching." The room spun. Or maybe that was just me, still high, still drunk, still covered in evidence of my crimes. "Nothing happened?" I lied, the words automatic. "You're being paranoid." He pulled up his phone, showed me a video someone had sent him. Me and Rico, clearly visible through a yacht window. Not everything, but enough, more than enough. "Nothing happened?" He threw his phone on the couch. "You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know what you did?" That's when I started crying. Not because I was sorry, I wasn't capable of being sorry in that moment, but because I was caught. Because my carefully constructed life was crumbling and I didn't know how to stop it. "It didn't mean anything," I sobbed. "I was drunk." Maria pressured me. "It was just one mistake." "One? How many were there, Carmen? How many men did you—" He stopped, disgust clear on his face. "You know what? I don't want to know. I can't do this." The fight was ugly. He called me names I probably deserved. I cried, begged, made excuses, said the other girls forced me to drink. That nothing really happened. That the baby was definitely his. Each lie making things worse. "A DNA test?" He laughed, but it sounded more like breaking. "Why would we need that if nothing happened?" He left that night, packed a bag, and walked out while I screamed and sobbed and promised to change. The performance of a lifetime. The good Catholic wife act falling apart completely. By morning, I was alone in our beautiful house with a baby growing inside me, and no idea who the father was. My family rallied around me, of course. That's what we do, protect our own no matter what. Maria called Dylan every name in the book. My cousins offered to pay him a visit, make him understand he couldn't just abandon his pregnant wife. Even my mother, between highs, managed to curse his entire bloodline. "I'll get Hector and them to talk to him," my cousin Rodrigo offered, cracking his knuckles. "White boy needs to learn you don't disrespect familia." "No, I said, though part of me wanted to say yes. Wanted to see Dylan scared the way I'd been scared so many times growing up. That'll just make things worse. But I was already making things worse on my own. The first time I showed up at his parents' house, I thought I looked sympathetic. Pregnancy just starting to show, tears streaming down my face, the perfect picture of an abandoned wife. His mother, Patricia, answered the door, took one look at me and tried to close it in my face. "Please," I begged, wedging my foot in the door. "I'm carrying your grandchild." "Don't you want to know your grandchild?" "Dylan told us everything," she said coldly. "About the party, about the men, about your lies. He's lying. Nothing happened. I swear on my mother's life." "Your mother's a drug addict, dear. Her life isn't worth much to swear on." The words hit like a slap. This woman who'd smiled at me over Sunday dinners, who'd complimented my English, who'd acted so proud of her son for being so open-minded, showing her true colors at last. "You never thought I was good enough for him," I spat. "None of you did. The poor Mexican girl from the wrong side of town." "No," Patricia said calmly. "We thought you were a lovely girl who'd overcome a difficult past. We welcomed you into our family. You're the one who proved us wrong." She managed to close the door, leaving me screaming on her perfectly manicured lawn until the neighbors threatened to call the police. I left, but I came back, again and again. Sometimes drunk, sometimes with Maria and her friends, letting them scream in Spanish while the neighborhood watched from behind curtains. Each visit made things worse, but I couldn't stop. It was like watching myself from outside my body, seeing the train wreck happening but unable to change course. But I knew it was over. Had known it the moment I stepped onto that yacht. Maybe even before. Maybe I'd been waiting for an excuse to destroy the life that never quite fit. Like wearing shoes a size too small. The lawyer's letter came 2 weeks later. Divorce papers. Cold, clinical language dissolving 4 years of marriage. No mention of the baby. No acknowledgement that I might be carrying his child. Just signatures required and assets to divide. I should have signed them. Should have let him go. Should have admitted what I'd done and faced the consequences. Instead, I did what I always do. I dug in deeper. Started showing up at his parents' house, crying about their grandchild. Posted on social media about absent fathers and broken promises. Had Maria's boyfriends drive by his work, just to remind him I wasn't alone. Even called his job, told his boss he was abandoning his pregnant wife. "You're making things worse," my friend Sophia warned. "Just let him go." But I couldn't. Not because I loved him. I'm not sure I ever really did. But because he was my ticket out. My proof that I was different, better, worth something more than the girls still stuck in the neighborhood. Without him, I was just another statistic. Another Mexican girl with a deadbeat dad and an addict mom who got knocked up by some random player at a party. The baby moves inside me now, 5 months along. A boy, the ultrasound said. I've stopped pretending I know who the father is. Could be Dylan's, could be Rico's, could be any of the others from that night. The not knowing should bother me more than it does. But what really bothers me is the silence. Dylan won't answer my calls, won't respond to my texts, won't even look at me when I show up at his office. His coworkers know to alert security when they see me coming. I've become that crazy ex-wife, the one people whisper about in break rooms. "You need to stop," Sophia told me last week. "You're making yourself look desperate." I am desperate, I admitted, hand on my growing belly. I have no job, no money, and a baby coming. What am I supposed to do? "Maybe think about that before you spread your legs for half of Miami," she said, brutal in that way only old friends can be. She wasn't wrong, but being right didn't help pay bills or buy diapers or figure out how I was going to raise a baby alone. Maria thinks I should put Dylan's name on the birth certificate anyway. "Make him prove he's not the father," she says. "Get that child support money." It's tempting. Dylan makes good money at his accounting firm. Enough to keep me comfortable while I figure out my next move. And who knows, maybe the baby is his. 6 months of trying had to count for something, right? But then I remember the way he looked at me that last night. Not with anger or hate, but with disappointment. Like I'd confirmed every stereotype he'd been fighting against when he brought me home to meet his family. The Mexican girl from the bad neighborhood who'd inevitably revert to type. He wasn't wrong. My phone buzzes. Another message from him through the lawyer. He'll pay for a DNA test if I want, cover medical expenses until we know for sure. Fair, reasonable, decent even after everything. I hate him for that decency, for being exactly who he always said he was while I was lying through my teeth, for making me feel like the villain in my own story. But that's what I am, isn't it? The woman who couldn't be satisfied with a good man and a nice house, who had to have one more taste of the chaos that almost killed me, who destroyed a marriage for a night I barely remember with men whose names I never knew. Maria says I'm being too hard on myself, that Dylan was boring anyway, that I deserve someone who can handle the real me. But the real me is exactly what no decent man wants. A liar who plays roles to get what she needs, who can't stay faithful even when she has everything. The baby kicks again. Stronger this time. In 4 months he'll be here, and I'll have to decide what story to tell him. The truth about that night? The lie that his father abandoned us? Or something in between, the way I've lived my whole life? Maybe I'll tell him about the girl who wanted to be saved so badly she convinced a good man she was worth saving, who played the part so well she almost believed it herself, who threw it all away for one night of being who she really was. Or maybe I'll just tell him his father was weak, that real men don't abandon their families over a few mistakes, that we're better off without someone who couldn't handle a real woman. Yeah, that sounds better. Easier. That's the story I'll tell. After all, I've always been good at stories. It's the truth that gets me in trouble.